Here's something strange. There's an aircraft that can fly straight over your head and you would never even notice it was there. No roar, no rumble, nothing to make you look up. Now normally, a story like that ends with a cool gadget and a someday maybe promise. But this one has a twist that most people completely miss. The US military has been quietly involved with this exact aircraft for years. And they're not interested in it because it's cool, they're interested because of one specific thing it can do that almost nothing else can. It can disappear. Not from your eyes, from your ears, and from a sensor's heat vision. The aircraft belongs to a company called Joby Aviation. On the surface, it's an electric air taxi meant to fly people over city traffic. Underneath, it's something the Pentagon sees as a possible edge in future conflict. Same machine, two completely different reasons to want it. So in this video, let's answer 3 questions. What is this thing actually? Why is it such a big deal for regular people? And why has the world's most powerful military been testing it in the desert? I am going to connect those dots. This is World Affairs Intelligence. Let's get the basics down first. Joby's aircraft carries 5 people, 1 pilot and 4 passengers. It lifts off straight up like a helicopter thanks to 6 rotors. Then those rotors tilt forward so it can fly like a normal plane. Top speed is around 200 miles per hour and it can cover roughly 100 miles before it needs recharging. No fuel tank, no engine burning anything. It runs entirely on electricity. But the number that actually matters is not the speed. It's the sound, or rather, how little of it there is. At cruising height, this aircraft measures about 45 decibels. To give you a sense of scale, that's roughly as loud as 2 people chatting quietly across a table. A helicopter doing the same job sits around 80 decibels, and because the decibel scale is not linear, that difference is massive, not small. One clears a room, the other you can barely notice. And getting there took over a decade of obsessive work. Lifting a machine off the ground with spinning blades is inherently loud. It's the reason helicopters are so noisy. Joby had to redesign nearly everything. The shape of the blades, where the motor sits, how fast the rotor tips spin, all of it aimed at a single goal. Stay quiet enough that a city won't complain. Those 6 motors do something else too. They are a safety net. A regular helicopter leans on one big rotor, which means one critical failure can bring the whole thing down. Spread the job across 6 independent motors and losing one is not a catastrophe. The aircraft is designed to keep flying. And to be clear, this is not a fantasy stuck in a lab. Joby has flown over 850 test flights and more than 50,000 miles. And in March 2026, it passed stage 4 of the FAA's 5-stage approval process, the furthest any electric air taxi company has gotten in the US. But I'll be honest with you, it's not carrying paying customers yet. The final stage of testing is not expected to start before late 2026, and real everyday service is more likely a 2027 thing. It's close, but not quite here. So why should any of this matter to a normal person? Simple. It targets the part of travel everyone hates. Think about the crawl from the airport to a city center. On a bad day, it eats an hour or more of your life. Now imagine lifting over all of it and landing a few minutes later. In sports, a helicopter is not even allowed to use because helicopters are too loud for city routes. That quiet unlocks landing pads right in the middle of where people actually want to go. That's the whole idea. Not science fiction cars in every garage, just raising the most broken part of a trip. And the companies backing this are not small players. Joby's biggest investor is Toyota. It's building an airport-to-doorstep service with Delta. You would book it through the Uber app, and it bought out the passenger operation of a company called Blade, instantly gaining routes and customers in cities like New York, where it has already flown test hubs between JFK Airport and Manhattan. There's even a US government program built to let advanced aircraft like this start limited flights in several states before full certification is done. Factories are being scaled up in California and Ohio. The pieces are being put in place. But if I'm honest, the passenger side is not the part that fascinates me most. It's what's happening away from the public eye. Here's the part the headlines usually skip. The US military has been working with Joby for years. Joby became the first company to base an electric air taxi at a US military site out at Edwards Air Force Base. Back in 2023, it landed an Air Force contract worth up to $131 million. The tasks that they looked at sound unglamorous. Hauling cargo, moving people, medical evacuation. But that unglamorous work is exactly what keeps a military functioning. Armies don't run on firepower alone. They run on supply. Now here's why quiet turns into a genuine advantage. A loud aircraft tells the enemy you are coming long before you arrive. A silent one doesn't. And there's a second layer. A normal aircraft with burning engine glows brightly on infrared cameras, which is how a lot of things get spotted and targeted at night. An electric aircraft runs much cooler, so you get two kinds of invisibility at once. Hard to hear and hard to see on heat sensors. In modern warfare, staying undetected is close to the whole game. But there's a real limitation and I won't gloss over it. That 100-mile electric range is fine for a city hawk, but too short for many military missions. So Joby partnered with a defense heavyweight L3 Harris and built a hybrid version. Same body, but now a small gas turbine comes along for the ride. And the clever bit is how it's used. The turbine does not power the routes directly. It just recharges the batteries mid-flight. So the aircraft can travel a long way using the turbine-fed energy, and then when it approaches the risky area where noise could get people killed, it switches over to quiet electric power for the final stretch. Long reach on the way in, near silence on arrival. And they built it fast. The partnership was announced and roughly 3 months later, in late 2025, the hybrid was already flying. Demonstration for the US Army are next. And then there is the final piece, which pushes this even further, because the military is asking whether you need a pilot in the seat at all. In 2025, Joby's self-flying system took part in a large US defense exercise across the Pacific. The results were eye-opening. Over 7,000 miles flown with nobody on board. More than 40 hours in the air, including a single ocean crossing of nearly 5,000 miles where the aircraft took off, landed and taxied by itself. A lot of it overseen from a control station thousands of miles away. Think about what that makes possible. Supplies shuttle between islands, scouting flights, resupply runs, all done automatically without risking a crew and without trying up to big expensive aircraft that are better saved for harder jobs. The Pentagon has a name for this challenge. Moving supplies through areas where the enemy is actively trying to stop you and it's willing to spend heavily to solve it. So step back and look at the whole picture. For about a century, flying has meant 3 constants. It's loud, it burns fuel, and a human sits up front. This one machine is chipping away at all 3 at the same time. The aircraft that might someday save you an hour in traffic is the same one a superpower is testing to move its forces quietly through dangerous places, eventually without any pilot at all. I leave you with a fair warning though. This is not finished. The approvals are not complete. Most cities still don't have the landing spots these aircraft need, and the company is spending money faster than it earns it. It could still stumble, but if it succeeds, it might belong on a very short list of inventions that changed flight forever. The jet engine, the helicopter, and maybe this. And the strangest part of all, when it finally shows up over your city, you won't hear a thing. So what's your take? Genuine game changer or overhyped? Drop it in the comments and subscribe to the World Affairs Intelligence, where we connect the stories and nobody else bothers to.